Oh, hey.
Hey, did you try to come up here?
Yeah, but I don't want to be on the camera. So hold on, I think I can. Okay, there
Okay.
we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I get you just fine.
Okay, it's clear.
Yeah.
Okay, I just came up because there was a lot of questions. So I was like, if you need help answer the questions, I can help you because I know it's a lot.
No, I
And
think it would be great. I think it would be
sometimes,
gr
huh?
No, I would say I think it would be great for you to also be able to answer questions from angles that I may not have seen because I'm not gonna sit up here and say this happened and I know this happened if I didn't see it. So there may be
Right,
questions that you may be able to confirm with your own, with your own experience, and that would be great as well.
right. That's what I figured too. It's like there was a lot of things that the women were involved in that the men weren't. So it was
Eh,
like,
yeah, and
yeah.
and also you need to. Well, I'm not gonna say you need to because you do whatever you feel like you need to do. I'll say that I think it would be helpful, especially after recently watching Surviving R. Kelly, how important it is to talk about what happened and how helpful it can be to other people who in their current position may feel like, oh, this could never happen to me, who may need to revert back to this if they ever find their daughter or their son in a similar situation.
Yeah, like the key I appreciate everybody in here. I see you guys. I love you. Um I think that the main thing is to bring awareness. Like, I didn't even realize how, what kind of situation I was involved in until I started becoming more aware of other people who had been in similar situations. Um, you know, Watching Surviving R. Kelly, I've realized that I was literally no different from these women.
Right.
Like just very young, thinking that this guy was charming and this guy was one thing, and then next thing you know, you're in a situation you don't even know how you got there, and you're so deep into it, you're estranged from your family. It's like, where else are you going to turn? This became the most important relationship in my life, and I'm saying, like, people can't possibly understand that because the most important relationship in in a lot of people's lives are, the relationship with their families, their biological families, their children, their mother, their father. How in the world does somebody you don't even know become the most important relationship in your life? But it's such a process that happens. It's amazing. I still, to this day, I mean, that's why I came up here, because it's still amazing to me that this was this happened to me.
Yeah.
Like, I just
Yeah.
don't even
Yeah.
I don't even understand, like, what. But I saw that one question. Yeah, I see you, oh son, love. I seen your question, and I honestly, you're the reason why I came up here for your question. She said, why do you think the women stay? And I believe I believe that they believe that he is the most important person in their life. And they even said it. You can hear them say it. There's nothing else. There is nothing else. So the people that abusers like him, manipulators and control freaks like him, um, they they manipulate you into thinking that no one loves you as much as they do. No one understands you as much as they do. So they've said it. You've heard Tanisha say it. He knows my needs better than I do. And yeah, it's like we convinced ourselves that he knew more about us than we knew about ourselves.
Right.
He knew what was best for us when we didn't even know what was best for ourselves. Maybe because one time he gave us a piece of advice and we felt like it resonated, or two times or three times, or maybe, oh, he had this prophetic, experience and I didn't. So he's more knowledgeable than I am. And so, yeah, just believing that, he is the most important figure in their life above all else. Yes, they have children. Yes, they have children, but they're not the most, those children are not the most important in their life. Yes, they've experienced very tragic things with this person, probably the most tragic things they've ever experienced in their life: being beaten, being neglected, being left in the closet, being disrespected in front of the world and degraded in front of the world, you know. But you have to understand, but then there's like, they've been humiliated in front of the world. The world is their enemy because he is their savior. You understand? So it's like, it's backwards. They have reality backwards and don't realize it. So although it's from like the outside in, we're like, oh, this is crazy. Oh, they're bird brains. Oh, this is just ridiculous. It's like, and for them, it's very real. You know, for me at one point in time, it was very real. I just watched a video of myself yesterday getting on live looking awful, you know, back in what was it? Panama.
Yeah.
I got on live. I was looking awful, defending this person and saying it wasn't his fault that I was looking awful. And I just thought about it, and I'm like, I did not make that video because I wanted to. You know, I made that video because I felt like I had to. You know, I had to. You know, Velvet had just left. She had said all these things that were true, and I thought, I have to defend this person that I call my savior. I have to tell the world that he's not the reason that I'm looking sick. You know, and I remember, you know, I was so depressed, and I just wanted to feel better. And I remember I went into his room to get my hair cut. He cut my hair into a style. And right after getting my hair cut, he coerced me into having sex with him. You know, mind you, I just had a baby. You know, I just had a baby. And I wasn't his wife. You know, I wasn't with him. But he would do things like that, like just get you in a vulnerable position and make you feel like you couldn't say no to him. You couldn't leave the room without pretty much doing what he wanted you to do. It's very intimidating. And even though he's not there with those women, he has a huge control over their mind. A huge control over their mind. And I didn't speak out for a long time about this, and even regretted sometimes speaking out, because I know that even if they hear a glimpse of this, it makes them so angry that they cling to him more. I remember, you know, Velvet speaking out at one point made me so mad. I started being even more loyal, you know, because I thought, then that was so disrespectful. That was so disloyal. So I need to show that I have even more reverence for this person, and I'm even more loyal. You know, it's just, so you see them. So, you know, Portia is acting like she's so hard right now. She's just the sweetest person ever, but she's
so
acting
nice.
so hard.
She's so nice. Hey, babe.
Yeah.
I want to say something pertaining to
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Something you said about the coercion. People got to understand, you're what, babe? You 4'11", 5 foot?
Yeah, I'm 4'11" and less than 100 pounds.
And this man
Usually.
is 6'2", 200 pounds.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
people often somebody asked me a question, and it took me to a deep place. They was like, have you forgiven Kendra for being with the cult leader? And I told them she was never with the cult leader. And I put myself in your position as a 4'11", 100-pound woman in the presence of a 6'2", 200-pound man who has displayed behavior patterns that are unpredictable. I don't blame you for feeling like you had to do what you had to do to survive. It's easy for somebody to pass judgment on others, but I feel like the passing of judgment only comes from a lack of being empathetic and compassionate. And you also knew that if I were to do anything, I likely would have been jumped by the other guys because I know we've done it before. So a lot of the guys were reluctant to, act out against the cult leader because I don't care if you think you Bruce Lee, you ain't about to beat 6'7" dudes. You're just not gonna do it. When we jumped Loyal, he couldn't do nothing. It didn't matter if he knew Wing Chun, Ip Man. This ain't Ip Man.
Mm-mm.
Very hard, almost impossible for one man to beat multiple men in a fight. So I can understand what was going through your mind in the presence of somebody like that. Also understanding the amount of control that he had over other people. So I just wanted to address that real quick because I know that that really struck me when that person asked that question, and also hearing you say that, I noticed how angry I got, and
Mm.
and I just wanted to touch on that.
The anger, I have no idea. I every day, like,
And it's
you
and the
know,
funny thing about the funny thing about the cult is that everything they say applies to them. When the cult used to say the internet gives cowards an outlet, we were the cowards we were talking about. I would have I'm not that I've been to the hood. I understand the atmosphere. A lot of the things I said online, I would never say those things on the streets because you could get your head knocked off easy. So the internet was allowing me to be a coward. The cult leader, when the guy pulled up when he took an AR-15 and put it in his back seat, when the cult leader seen he had a gun,
mm,
the cult leader ran like a track meet. So all of this
mm,
tough guy stuff on the internet went out the window, and he left the entire tribe in the house in Atlanta while he exited out the back door. The women there, they're not tough. They're not gangsters. But the internet is allowing them to have an outlet for their cowardice. The real cowards are the people that are in the cult and are defending the cult leader because you refuse to say the truth. It is impossible to tell the truth in front of so many people and be a coward at the same time. So it's
that's
just
true because
always been. No, go ahead,
it,
baby.
it doesn't make us it doesn't make us look better to sit up here and say what we're saying. It doesn't. And people say, why don't you, why people were so mad when they found out I was doing an interview with the T. And they found out we were doing an interview with the T. I remember people actually texting me and messaging me like, so that's what you're gonna do? You're gonna go to the T? And I'm just like, this is the issue with a lot of us is that, when people been through something, we immediately want to shame the victim. And I'm so sick of that. I'm so sick of that because now I see things from a different angle. And I feel like, a lot of people don't even come forward and say things that they've experienced because they're afraid to be labeled as, a victim of somebody, or they're victimizing themselves, or they're hating on somebody, or they're bashing someone. Ain't no way you could be bashing someone that literally abuses people, and
Right.
it's not bashing. That's not bashing nobody. You know what I'm saying? There was so many times where I was like, I'm not trying to hate on him because I thought, I knew people was going to label me as a hater, or, well, you was in support of him at one point,
Right.
and but you have to, oh my gosh, it's like when you really realize what happened, you're like, no, I'm not about to just let this person still have the control over me. Like at one point, somebody asked a question about about Zoka and if what she said was true. I just watched the video of when she went live with Kayla and who was that in the video? I think it was Portia in Puerto Rico when Jayon lost her baby, when Zoka lost her baby.
Oh,
Um,
yeah,
I
yeah,
just watched that video like yesterday. Um, and I listened. I wanted to hear what she said because I knew, I just knew.
it was a script.
Yeah, I'm getting I'm getting to the point where I can watch the video. So I watched the video and what she said about her experience. She was telling a story about what happened, and I didn't not even because the story of what happened, that's fine. You know, a lot of stuff she was saying with her going into labor and being in the hospital, okay, that's fine. I wasn't there, so that most likely was true. The thing that stuck out to me with that video, and people can go back to that video, it's on the T where, and the T puts it together very well. It's like a what do you call it, like a life story of Jayon.
Okay.
So you know, you can go back and watch it and whatnot, but something specific happens during this live. He he tells her to say her story, right? But he never leaves the room, right? Because that's what he does when he has us on live. When he used to have me on live, I remember he was always around. You know, if Velvet was on the camera with me and somebody else, or if one of his wives was on camera, he was in the room. So he never left the room to let her really tell her story. He stayed in the background. And then as soon as she says something, like he comes up. He comes up and he starts to hug Kayla from the back. And I realized, okay, this is when he started to manipulate this is when he was also manipulating the situation. He's so strategic. I don't know. It's like he knows that he can control you with just his movements, just, you know, hit certain tones in his voice. And he wanted to make sure that she made him look like the hero in the situation. So she said things like, if it wasn't for Baba G, I wouldn't be, you know, keeping a healthy perspective right now. I would still be in a low mindset, you know. First of all, you just lost a baby a month ago. Ain't no way you in a healthy mindset. Let's
Right.
just be real. And I know we
Right.
tried to put on this front like we're gods. We can get through anything. Things happen to us and we just let it roll off our shoulder because we keep a healthy perspective. But none of us had experienced childbirth before this. We were young, you know. I was very scared when it was time to have that baby and when there was no preparation. Zoka was very scared. She had no support. You know, I remember cooking her breakfast, you know, one of the days that before she gave birth. And I just remember she was just so happy that somebody just cared about her. You know, there was no support for her. And she lied in that video when she said she was going to the hospital frequently. None of us
Yeah.
were going to the
She
hospital
was. Yeah.
frequently
Right.
being
Right.
pregnant.
Yeah.
He told her to say that. And none of us were going to no hospital. We didn't have no doctors checking in on our baby. That first time I got an ultrasound was the first time I had ever been to a doctor while I was pregnant. We didn't believe that we should go to the hospital. So I don't even know why she said that in the video. But as far as like the baby dying, the umbilical cord being tied around the baby's neck, yeah, I believe that because she went into the hospital pregnant and came out the hospital with no baby. So I believe that story. But as far as, oh, he's the savior of it all, heck no. Heck no. Because I remember the guys were separated from the girls. 7 of us girls were in a house in Mexico with him.
Yeah.
The other guys were in a different location. He had all the girls separately because he felt like that's what needed to be done, even though Jayon was about 6 months pregnant. I don't know, she was probably like 5, 6 months pregnant.
She was far along.
Um, very far along. Um, Syrian at that time was there. Her real name is Brianna. She was there. She didn't want to be there. She wanted to be with her
Uh,
man.
Mint,
Yes,
I
Mente,
forgot Mente's
Mente,
real name.
right. But he told her, and I was a part of convincing her, as well as the other women were a part of convincing her that it wasn't really Mente that she wanted. She really wanted him. I remember telling her and Jayon that they were making a mistake wanting to have children with the people that they were with. They needed to be with, you know, the cult leader because, you know, I had made that mistake before. I was just saying all types of stuff to them that I was trying to convince them that they should look at me as an example of what not to be, and listen to the cult leader because, you know, he had their best interests. But at this time, we were in Mexico, 7 of us women in a house with him. And I remember at this time I expressed to Velvet that I wanted to leave. I didn't want to be there anymore. I was losing weight. I wanted to leave. I told her, I said, I would like to, really what I want to do is leave Ja here and with his father and leave because I don't think that I'm stable enough to take care of him on my own. And I feel like I need to get my life together. This is why I told her, I said, I want to leave, gain weight, get my life together, like gain some weight, and maybe I'll come back. And that's what I told her. And she was just like, maybe you just need to talk to him, you know, talk to the cult leader. You know, she set me up with a meeting with him and her. And at that point, this is how all the women got in one house, because at one point in this house, Kayla was still with Caliber or Ishmael. So she was the only woman that was not in that house at the time. So this was the point where she came back. I had this meeting with him and Velvet, and Velvet tells him she doesn't want to be with, you know, Aaron. She wants to be with you. And that's not my words. That's not what I wanted. But I let it happen. I let it happen. And, you know, I don't know if she told, you know, the co-leader that I wanted to leave. I think she just told him that I just wanted to be with him. And in that moment, he says, I knew it. I knew I shouldn't have let any of the other men sleep with my women. These are my women. And even the African man told me that the biggest mistake I made was letting these men sleep with my women. And so he called Kayla in that very moment and told her, pack your bags, you're coming back with me. And, you know, told the guys, yeah, told Caliber, like, yeah, she's mine, you know. And then she ends up coming back to the house. He ends up basically having us all in one house. Velvet didn't, I don't think Velvet knew what she was getting herself into. She really didn't like the multiple women thing, but I don't know if she knew that this was about to happen. You know, 7 of us in one house, and he literally in 1 week slept with all of us. And some of those women didn't want to sleep with him. Um, you know, Jayon was 6 months pregnant. You know, Brianna didn't want him at all. And then he bragged. It said it said to Velvet, I bet you didn't know I slept with all of them this week. See, you don't even know what I do. I can do whatever I want. You know, you don't even gonna find out about it. And I remember that was in this house was a very, very transformative moment because we really.
Did the sound go out for y'all?
Oh, here I am.
Okay,
Here I
you
am.
bet. Okay, that's cool.
Um, I remember realizing that this guy was not playing. Like, he did this thing where he turned on a song. If I heard the song today, I could tell you what song it was, but I can't remember. I feel like it's Rick Ross' voice. And he kept playing the song over and over. And he did this thing where he basically like pounded his chest and, you know, said, I'm the king, you're gonna bow and kiss my feet. And that's when the whole kiss my feet started. And each one of us had to kiss his feet. And I remember at this very same house, Tanisha trying to run. He stopped her from running. He grabbed her. She tried to run out the door. He grabbed her. She screamed at the top of her lungs, help, help, somebody help. Screamed. And he said, you trying to get me locked up? You trying to get me locked up? Oh, no, And the other women, I don't remember what I was doing in this situation. I remember seeing all this happening, but I don't know why the other women were more physical towards her than I was. Maybe I was taking care of the children. I don't know if the children were there at the time, though. I can't remember, because there was a point in time where Ja was with his father. But I just remember them pulling Tanisha into a room, and Tanisha wanted to. I wasn't in the room, but I was told that Tanisha wanted to jump off the balcony. She was that afraid for her life. She just wanted to jump off the balcony and end her life or get away. I don't know, but I remember they basically smacked her back into calming down, and Tanisha actually ended up leaving that time. I don't know if it was the very same day or not, but she ended up leaving around that time, got her backpack, walked out the door. And sometimes he would do that. He would allow people to walk out the door and leave. So a lot of us used to say online, no one's being held against their will. If you want to leave, you could get your bags and walk out the door. But it just wasn't that simple in the middle of Mexico, And I remember her walking out the door and him basically just being like, she'll be back. She'll be calling me later on. And she did. I guess she waited at a Starbucks or something, some type of, I don't know, some type of shop with Wi-Fi for a while, and realized there was no way out of Mexico, and ended up right back in that house where, then you got to face everybody in what you just did, which would be quote unquote disrespectful and dishonorable. So, now you're going to get treated like dirt for a little while. I was treated like dirt for a while after getting into it with Velvet, and Velvet giving me a black eye. I was treated like dirt for a little while too. I know what that feels like, to be isolated from the group. And he would do that to Tanisha a lot, put her in the closet, put her in other rooms, because without contact, you just feel like you have to eventually submit. You have to eventually apologize. You have to just eventually become weaker, and just more, a lot of things I don't think the men saw, because he would do a good job of keeping the men separate from the women. But a lot of things, like that time in that house in Mexico, us 7 women in that house, nobody knew what was going on in that house. He would put Velvet on the live, and she would talk a good game. We responded to what was that, Sybil, or we responded to, not Sybil, who did we respond to? I don't know. We responded to somebody on a live where Velvet was like clapping back at them.
It was I wanted, no, never
Yeah.
mind. I was
All
about
those
to say
lives
it was.
were strategic. All those lives were strategic in a way. He knew how to kind of put this fire in us, like, yeah, y'all gotta defend me because they out here lying on me, and you gotta, so we would just get all hype, and next thing you know, we yelling at the camera. We yelling at these people we say is our enemy in the camera, and all. So it just looks like, oh, these women want to be there. They want to do what they're doing. When really, in reality, it was like, what other choice did we have? What other choice did we have? This became our home. This became our life, our identity. There was no other choice. Tanisha felt like she didn't have no other way to go, even though she was literally so skinny. She was so frail. And she just felt like there was nowhere else to go. And this is why they still say that to this day. There's nothing else. Not remembering these times where we were in this house, and, there was infections. There was people did have vaginal infections, you know, and I remember seeing these women struggling with their infections and thinking, oh, these women are just low vibrational. That's why they have infections. I don't have an infection. So they're just low vibrational. You know, and telling them to their face, if you wasn't thinking low vibrational thoughts, you wouldn't have those infections. You know, it's like just the ridiculous things that, you know, I did and said to these women because of the control that he had over my entire life. Um, it wasn't just so simple. A lot of people talk about why they didn't leave. You know, it wasn't that simple. Maybe for some people it would have been, oh, I would never let him do that and do this and do that. But in the middle of Nicaragua, where are you going? You know, in the middle of Mexico, where are you going without your cards, your credit cards? The first step to leaving, you have to tell somebody that you're leaving if you want to leave with your stuff. And to tell somebody that you're leaving, that's opening up a whole can of worms that you don't want. You don't want to be the one that goes against the group. You don't want to be the one that gets shamed and embarrassed and humiliated and possibly live on camera. You want to get away in a way that maybe no one knows. So that's why a lot of people leave in the middle of the night, or they leave and say, oh, I gotta go get something real quick. You know, Sybil said, I gotta go get something real quick. I gotta go back to New York and get something real quick. I'll be back. You know, that's the only way to really leave. But you gotta you kind of gotta be smart about it, because and a lot of these women that are there have had so much trauma being there that they've now connected to each other on a deep level with that trauma. Kayla and Jayon losing children in that situation is very hard, I bet. And then Tanisha and Portia both having children and not seeing them, you know, that even though their relationship with each other, all of them right now, and even my relationship with them when I was there, is very superficial, because it's kind of hard to go deep with somebody when you're not authentic with yourself. You know, it's impossible to go deep and really be authentic in a relationship with somebody else when you're not authentic with yourself. So even their relationship with each other is not like how we portrayed, oh, we're sisters and we love each other. And, you know, no, you know, at any point in time, if he turned against one of us, we turn against them too.
Mm-hmm.
And we were taught that. We were trained to do that. We were trained to, if one person gets out of line, we circle them up and we intimidate them into thinking this is a point where you might get jumped. So you better bow your head. You better get on your face. You better relax, you know. And I was very good at intimidating because I think I believed in it so much. And it's so funny to me because I'm like, I thought I believed more than they believe, and they're still there. I thought I believed more, you know, because of how intimidating I was. And these women came to me for advice and direction a lot, you know, within the cult. You know, if they were having quote unquote unhealthy thoughts, or just like Portia would have thoughts of just leaving, just dipping, she would come to me and say, you know, I'm having these thoughts. And I would talk her back into staying. You know, I was that voice of him when he wasn't around. So it's amazing to me. It's amazing to me to see them still there, because I thought I was more of a firm believer than they were. And at this point, I don't think it has anything to do with their belief in him, but just maybe just fear, pure fear. Like, there's nothing outside of this. You know, how can I go back to anything else? I will be condemned to hell. I will be condemned by the world. I don't want to receive the praise from the world or love from the world, because then that would mean that I'm of the world, or that I'm just like them and they're devils and you know, it's like, it's so hard to come to terms with the fact that this person that you've relinquished so much of your power and control to, and that you've really told some of the most intimate things to, and they've told some of the most intimate things to you, and you've shared the most intimate moments with, is actually your abuser. You know, it's like, it's unbelievable, you know. even though you know that something didn't feel right and it wasn't natural, and that, you know, it wasn't right for him to stomp on your head, it wasn't right for him to just beat you up that day, some way in your mind you just rationalize it with, well, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have never talked back, I should have never had an attitude, you know, it was my fault in some way, and maybe I deserved that, you know, but you don't deserve that. You don't. You don't deserve that, you know? I you know, I think about them every day, and sometimes it makes me not want to say anything because I know that they'll be like, oh, she's speaking out, and they'll want to cling tighter. But then I think about people that, you know, they just don't understand why these women probably are still there. And it's important for me that to bring awareness. It's not about, you know, clout or, you know, attention. You know, I don't care about that. I don't care about that. My life, everybody has viewed it for the past 5 years. It's not about clout for me. You know, if it was about clout for me, I would have, you know, there's so many things I could have taken opportunities to do. But for me, it's about him. It's about justice. It's about him getting what he deserves. It's about seeing him get 30 plus years. I really want to see that day. You know, that it's about that for me. It's about those women going to a place where they actually experience true love and not thinking that this person that abuses them, it loves them. You know, that's important to me. It's their well-being, you know, them being able to just do stuff without having to ask permission. Being able to see their families and how much their families love them truly, and that this person was just lying and saying that nobody loved them. You know, like, I want them to experience that real love that they haven't even experienced yet, you know, because it's a beautiful thing. And I know they think that he will haunt them and he will torture them, you know, somewhere in the afterlife, or, you know, that he will. He's very dark. He's very scary. And I remember being afraid that leaving, I would hear his voice everywhere. And I did for a while, but it goes away, you know? And I just want them to know that it goes away. You can rebuild your life. You can rebuild your life. They're so young. They're so young. Like, you can start over. I've done it. You know, I came here with nothing. Nothing. I left with nothing. I left with one outfit, you know, and a blanket. You know, I left with nothing in my child, but I gained the world because I got my family, you know. And it's like he took everything. He takes everything from you, every last thing. And you feel like he deserves it because you gave it to him. And they're so angry inside, but they're angry at the wrong person. They're angry with the wrong person. We were all so angry inside at the wrong one. It's not white supremacy. He's the slave master. He's the one whipping you. He did it. He's the one whipping you. He's the one forcing you on your face and telling you to say the black man is God. The white man is not doing that to you. It, it's just like, he's going to get what he deserves. You know, he's going to get what he deserves. And I will be one to make sure of it. I will never let up on this. I would never victim shame or blame, you know, the victim, the alleged victim. To me, she's not an alleged victim. She's a victim. She's somebody that endured exactly what she said she endured. I don't care about what people have to say about her past or what she went through in her, or what she put out there online. She's a victim because she didn't want that. She didn't want to be beaten, slapped, or intimidated when she got there. She didn't even want to come there. She was coerced into coming back. He gets the women, especially Kayla, to bring other women in. I want her, bring her to me. Talking about nobody's recruited. No, he tells you who he wants, and he tells you to go talk to her, to convince her to come to me. So that victim was convinced to coming to that house and to staying there. She was already done with us. She was already done with him. She was lured back in by women. If that's not, does that sound like a sex cult? Like, why do you need women to lure other women in? You know, if you got it like that and women are just flocking to you, I don't need to R word no woman because women are flocking over me. But why you want them here so bad then? Why do you need to convince them to get here so bad? All of that flashiness and flaunting was all for women, to get women. But real women for real, like that got stuff going on for themselves, don't want him. He knows how to pick them. People that are unsure, they don't know what direction they're going. They don't know what's good for them yet. So, he preys on that, just like any other abuser, any other manipulator. He was powerless as a child, so he decided to reverse that and inflict pain and suffering and sexual trauma on those who, in his eyes, are powerless. And that's what we were. We were his slaves. If he told you go over there, you go over there. If he tells you stand in that corner for 3 hours, you stand in that corner for 3 hours. If he tells you that we're not eating today, we're not eating today. If he tells you now we're sleeping, now we're sleeping. If he tells you we're getting up now, we're getting ready to go, that's what we're doing. There was no saying no. There's no argument. There's no questioning. If he tells you to fight, you and that person, you better start throwing up them hands. There's no saying no to him. Talking about these people do what they want to do. No, they do what you tell them to. They're afraid. And of course, all these women have wanted to leave. Of course, they have all packed their bags. Of course, they have all been headed out the door. Portia has left. We've dropped her off at the bus station. Kayla has left. She's went back to her mom's house. Jayon has left multiple times. Tanisha has left multiple times. But you know how many times on average it takes to leave an abusive relationship? Research shows 7 to 10 times. Why y'all didn't jump him? He was the most important figure in our life, our deity. We wouldn't even think to jump him.
And then,
And
and
if
then
we would
you
think
gotta,
about it, we would think that we were demonic.
yeah. And then you gotta also consider that if you initiated an attack and the other people decided not to move forward with it, you would be on the receiving end of the attack you initiated. So in the
Absolutely.
presence of 8 or 9 women, those women are gonna jump you. In the presence of
Absolutely.
8 or 9 men, you're gonna get jumped by those 8 or 9 men. We did it to Loyal. We beat Loyal to sleep.
Yeah, so bad. I don't even think the women were allowed to see him. We didn't even see him. I just know he was beat really bad.
We beat Loyal to sleep.
Yeah, I would be willing to testify. Absolutely. Um, we beat up women, you know, on his orders. Upon his orders, upon his orders, Tanisha was beat up. Upon his orders, you know, I guess I thought I was doing something right because I didn't really get beat up. Um, he never, and that's the thing. I know that he knows if those women leave, then they really have a much stronger case, even though the case is already strong. Um, because those women have multiple counts of being abused by him, whereas he stomped on my head before, and slapped me, but I haven't got whipped like Tanisha got whipped, like a slave. uh I haven't got hit in my face to the degree, like, I haven't got beat up like Kayla got beat up. Kayla got beat
Ever got beat up.
down, to the point where, she's beautiful and her face looked not like how she looked. Um, I mean, he has a history of beating women up. This ain't no foreign. I
Right.
don't know
It's
why.
not like
I don't know why we ever got online acting like this man is a saint. Like, no, he has a history of
that's the most
beating women up.
that's the most disturbing thing to me about the cult leader is that his inability to take accountability for what he's done, one, as if it never happened, and two, as if it's not
If
recorded.
it's as if it's not literally documented. It's documented what you did to Maisha. Is it People that were there at these times of your past relationships have come out and said, yes, it's true. Even he bragged about, pulling a gun out on Maisha. And the crazy thing is, I think that when he told us these stories about him and his past relationships, it was almost like we felt like, oh wow, you came from that and you changed
Exactly,
that much,
exactly,
and
yeah.
we just it was like, I remember just thinking, oh wow, this man really turned his life around, and because initially he wasn't putting his hands on nobody, but when we started, what it was, drinking, the drinking began heavily, like the Hennessy and stuff. That's when he started beating people up. And I think for a long time, like I said, I wasn't the one being beat, and I wasn't one of his direct wives, so I wasn't around when a lot of things happened. Like, I didn't see the first instances of abuse with Tanisha. I didn't see them. I heard about things online, because like some of the lives, I didn't even watch him live with them and stuff, so I didn't know that certain things were happening. It wasn't until, I think, the reason why people think or say, like, was the Atlanta house where everything escalated to a whole different degree? It did escalate to a whole different degree, but I think what was so different about being in Atlanta was that we were all in the same house, like so close, and like kind of like Mama Cookie's house. Mama Cookie's house was like that too, where, if him and Velvet got into a fight, we could all hear it.
Mm-hmm.
We could all hear it and see her flying out the door. It was like not a secret. But other times, on these properties, we were so big. If somebody got into a fight, we couldn't hear that. If somebody started hitting somebody, we couldn't hear it. So there was so many times where I didn't see anybody getting harmed, but there was talk. There was talk of, did you hear that thumping in the night? Or did you hear this and that? Or people would come to visit us and they'd be like, something ain't right, and I would just be like, oh, we mind our business here. I don't ask no questions, and I don't, inquire about anything going on in their personal relationship, because I had my own things to worry about. But at the same time, when we was at that house in Atlanta, that's when I realized, oh, this is something that is serious. Like, I might not be the one laying down getting beat, but it doesn't make this right at all. At all. Like, I knew it wasn't right. Um, Justifying it with the Willie Lynch, and
Right.
needing to beat the bitch out of a woman. I know this is like really hard to believe, because me, in the state of mind I'm in now, finds it silly, but I really believe that I was a demon. I really believe that I was the devil. I believe that I was a devil used as a weapon against the black man, and that the black man had every right to abuse me because of I'm his property, you know. And I believe that if I was catching an attitude with him, if I did have any backlash towards the black man and I choose to be with him, then I deserve every bit of consequences, chastising, abuse, because I chose to be with a black man and I should obey him. And I believed in that. So with the other women got their consequences for quote unquote being disobedient, I thought, well, if they just stood up straight and walked with poise and grace and smiled through it like I do, they wouldn't have that problem. You know, I just thought that I was better or something because I didn't visually catch attitudes. I was more good at hiding my feelings. And I felt like, you know, they should get good at it too if they wanted to survive. But I think that those women know in their hearts that it wasn't right, and they had attitudes for a reason. They expressed their hurt and their pain for a reason because they wanted to be heard. But the thing is, he wants to make sure that you don't advocate for yourself, that you don't have self-respect, and that you allow him to tell you what's best for you at all points in time. So, you know, they don't even trust themselves anymore. If you ask them, who do you trust more, him or you? They'll say him.
I'll say him, yeah.
You know, um, who do you love more, him or you? Him. He tells you to love him above yourself, even though it's the motto is supposed to be, I love myself, right? But he says, I am you, I'm the higher you. So you should love me first before you love you, because you don't have this ability that I do to tap into the higher you, you know. But that's a lie. The higher me would never abuse me. The higher me would never put me in danger, you know. No. So, you know, I speak out because it brings awareness to that this is not a game. It's not entertainment. It's not like a funny story. It's a real life situation. You know, there's a lot of women that endured the things that we endured that had not spoken out, I'm sure. Maybe not with this man, maybe with other men, but there's things like this that happen and people think they don't deserve a chance to speak out and tell the truth because of the backlash they may get. And so I bring awareness because I know that I'm strong enough to handle that. You know, I'm strong enough to handle that. Anything that people have to say, I'm strong enough to handle that, you know, because dang, I was strong enough to get out of that situation. So I know I can handle anything, you know, and get my child out of that situation. And I know people was like, having a child for me would have just woke me up. But you have to understand, like, he was the most important relationship in my life. Not even the pure innocence of my child's eyes could wake me up, you know. I watched this interview of one of the ladies last night of one of the ladies that were involved with R. Kelly for years. She was in there for 5 years as well. And she said, a question was asked to her, what could have been said to you or done to get you out of that situation earlier? And she said, nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was only me, you know, there was nothing that could have woke me up. It was just me. Like, and it's amazing to me because I see that now in the other women, you know. I so badly and desperately want them to get out, but it's not up to me. It's not up to anyone, you know. But I just bring awareness because I know that it's not a game. It's real life.
Watching all them interviews just from different places, whether it be YouTube, Netflix, whatever platform, it really makes me feel obligated to do the same, because I feel like it's a requirement to be brave enough and a part of your process of healing to speak out, because the large contributing factor of people not speaking out is the fear. And even after leaving the cult with your actual body, you still have to take time and the steps to leave the cult psychologically, because it doesn't do you any good to remove yourself from the environment physically. If you're still going to have that mentality carrying forward in your life, you might as well have still been there. So for me to have built up such a excessive momentum defending the cult leader, I knew that in order for me to heal, I would have to do the complete opposite and tell the truth regardless of how it would make him look, because I realized that there is a thing called, I just made this up, called cult residuals. Whereas there was times where I felt bad for eating. I found myself overanalyzing how much I was eating. I found myself not wanting to have too much fun, not wanting to relax, not wanting to say anything against the cult leader, and trying to basically disassociate myself as if it never happened, saying that, you know, I'm not going to talk about that. That was a chapter in my life. I'm doing something different. But in order to really move forward, because I don't want to be in a Bill Cosby situation where I'm coming out 20 years later. If those people are just now coming out 20 years later, that means they were stuck in their own psychological development for 20 years. Even though they may have been able to pay bills, they've been able to go to vacations, they may have seemed like they was normal, to just now come out after 20 years mean that you were trapped psychologically in that state for 20 years. And I'm not about to be 60 still displaying characteristics of the cult. I'm going to go at this in the same way, in the same energy that I had while I was in the cult, because that was me. That energy is me. That energy wasn't brought out because I was in the cult. I've always had that energy. I've always had that attitude. It was just unfortunate that I used that energy to fuel and support a mission that was sinister. So I take that same energy and I realize I'm watching other people. These speaking out is something that is necessary, because I have to break down the habit of defending somebody, because that means that I have to walk around as a liar. I'm making you look good, but I'm a liar, and that can no longer coexist. If making you look good requires me to lie, I'm sorry, I can no longer do this no more. And I don't owe you to lie. You did these things, just like I told people. Yes, there has been instances where I put my hands on Kendra. The thing about it is that nobody gets to point a finger in my face and say I'm this. When I change my behavior, I'm clear. But my issue with the cult leader and anybody like him, whether that be Charles Manson or your baby daddy, I don't respect that behavior when you have an inability to own up to what you did just to save your face in the public image. I don't respect that. I'm not on here. I want y'all to look at what he did so y'all cannot look at what I did. I want y'all to know that I know what I was doing was wrong, because when you know what you was doing was wrong, that means you are now in a state to change. The cult leader is in jail and he refuses to admit what he done, which means that he ever get out, he gonna do it again with another group of people. R. Kelly started out with Aaliyah and he still did it until the day he got locked up. So I know the cult leader ain't gonna change, because this man is still doing downloads like he's some type of messiah.
No, he's not getting
It's
them.
crazy. I was there. I watched you do this stuff. I'm gonna put my stuff out there and I'm gonna put your stuff out there. If you want to do it, then somebody gotta do it. Just like Sybil said in her interview, you did it to yourself. You're gonna be known as a fake messiah. And the women there, I believe, because it was one of my reasons, I feel like they're afraid that they're gonna forever be known as that girl that was in the
Mm-hmm.
cult. I noticed the
Mm-hmm.
cult residual when I was at Walmart one day, and it just so happened that it was some people from my hometown that was at Walmart. They recognized me, came up and gave a hug. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that they're thinking that, oh, there go that crazy dude that was in the cult. But you have to move past that. You
Mm-hmm.
have to face that. You are in a cage of your own doubt that was facilitated by a man who was insecure in himself and needed you to be insecure so that he could use that as a mechanism for control. He needs to keep them women on the phone
Yeah.
all day, because if they ever regain their own self-confidence, they gone. And if they gone, he ain't gonna have nothing to use to make himself remain relevant. He's afraid to be forgotten because he's never got any real attention from nobody in his whole life. People are watching for two reasons. When are those women gonna leave, and how much time is he gonna get? Ain't nobody listening to you for no
Mm-hmm.
astrology readings or no relationship advice. I don't care what people think about me. I refuse to get on this camera and lie after lying for 4 years straight. You can think I'm a woman abuser. You can think I'm just as bad. You can think I should go to jail just like them. But at least I know I can die and I was really real, rather than faking and pretending like I'm being real in this fake cult.
Somebody said something very important. Said the cold part is that it's a whole bunch of people out here like him, teach your children people. And I really feel that for real, because I thought about it. I look at my son and I'm like, if he were to ever get involved in something like this, bruh, like my heart would be broken. I can only imagine what, and based off what my family told me, what they was really going through. you know Me thinking I was 24 years old when I left, so they, just thinking that they wouldn't be, I guess, that worried because I'm quote I'm so-called grown. And just thinking that I was just living my life, but now looking back on what I looked like, what I sounded like, what was happening, I know that my family, when they told me they couldn't even watch me, I know that them words was real. I know that their feelings were very real. I don't know exactly what they went through on a day-to-day basis, but I know that, they struggled. I know that they were in a lot of pain. I know they suffered, because if my child ever got involved in something like this, I I don't even know how I'd be able to sleep. I don't even know, like, I would be heartbroken, like, and then knowing that there's really nothing I can do until my child realizes for himself, like, I would just be broke to
And
a
you
whole
can't move
nother
forward.
degree.
You can't just move forward.
And you can't, like, it doesn't matter, like, you don't have a child, like, you don't remember your child being little and taking care of them, and now they're saying these things and it's not them. Like, I know my family looked at me in those videos and were like, that's not even her.
Right.
Like, who is that? Like, we don't even know who that is. They told me when I started losing so much weight, they couldn't even watch no more. They're just like, I can't even look at you, and how hard that must have been for them. If I can understand now, having a healthy relationship with my child, that if my child was to ever be involved in something like this. And that's why I think, it's very important to bring awareness, because I think that maybe a lot of people think never could it be me or, my family. But it very well could be, because there's not really a target when it comes to what type of people get involved with these type of abusive people. It's not really, I mean, there's people like all of us really who have families. All of us involved had families for the most part. Not necessarily every single person, but A lot of us had families. My family in particular is a very close family. So, you know, if you see my family today and you saw my interactions with my family today, you'd be like, why would you ever leave your family? You know, what made you just block your family and never talk to them? You know, like what type of things was you going through where you really believe that these people were your lower self? Like what? And so it's very possible for somebody with that level of manipulation to make you feel like, you know, your family is not who you think they are. They're really against you, pin them against you. You know, Tanisha's family, when they reached out to her to help her while she was literally on her deathbed, he pinned her against her family and told her that her family was her enemy. She didn't need to talk to them. She didn't need to, you know, accept anything from them. Anything from them. He provided her, well, he got people to provide her with transportation, cell phone, food, housing, all of that, so that she would associate him with safety and security and not her family. You know, so it's like it goes deep because people would think, well, she was in New Orleans. Why didn't she just go back with her family? He planted these seeds in her mind that if she accepted anything from her family, and he did it on live, if she accepted anything from her family, that her family would then expect her to, you know, do what they wanted her to do. And she wouldn't be able to live her life how she wanted to live her life. When her family literally came out and said, we're not trying to control her. We're trying to look out for her health. You know, we want her to be safe and healthy, just like any normal person is. You know, he's the only sick individual that thinks that people are after somebody because they want to control them. No, people are looking out for their family members because they want the best for their family. You know, since he didn't never experience that, he believes that people are only after control and power and money when that's what he's after. You know, so yeah, it's interesting, you know, knowing that we all, or a lot of us, came from a lot of good families. You know, in my family probably never thought I would get involved in something like this, but it just was, you know, right time in my life. He got me at the right, at, you know, or I should say the wrong time in my life, where I just was at a crossroads and I said, well, let me make, I was at an identity, I had an identity problem at that time, and I needed something to attach to. Some people go to a religion. Some people, you know, get a new job. Some people move to a different place, start over. I happened to join what I thought was a movement of people that wanted to live in peace and harmony and holistic well-being and health, community, nature. And it turned out that it was all a lie, you know. But I didn't realize it till after 5 years. That just, it just happened that way. But you know, it's definitely not a specific person that's targeted in these situations, because I'm not a small-minded person. I'm not a weak person, but I think I am an empathetic person. I think I am a very compassionate person. So when the cult leader told me about, you know, all of the things that happened in his childhood, and I sympathized with him. I empathized with him. I felt like, wow, this person has been through so much. You know, I looked at him as, you know, someone that was genuine at one point. You know, it's crazy. I was talking to somebody that was also involved in the cult, and I told, and I was like, you know what was so crazy is just the fact that I thought he was this normal guy. Like he was just walking around like he's this normal guy. Like I just thought he was normal. It's like it kind of just crept up, you know? Everything just kind of crept up. And you know, from the outside looking in now, I look at him and I'm like, oh, he looks crazy. But that's because I know now that he is crazy, but I think even some people that were online just watching him and viewing him over the screen were a little bit, tricked into believing that he was actually just a normal guy, or maybe even a real man, like he was saying, I'm a
Right.
real one. I'm a real one. I think that, me never really knowing anybody with that type of personality, I thought, oh, maybe he's just a real one. Maybe he just come from the streets and that's just how he is. Um, but nah,
I've
nah.
noticed that people's over assertion to convince people of what they are is usually grounds for confirmation that they are not. You rarely see people who actually have money feel the need to tell anybody that they have money or make overt displays that they have money. And looking back, him constantly trying to suggest that, oh, I'm a real dude, or I got a big heart, or I'm this and I'm that, is really an indication that he's not. Because when somebody is actually something, then you see it in their embodiment and the expression of their actions. I realized that the cult leader relied heavily upon his ability to use words, but when you start to notice that his words didn't align with his actions, you began to pay more attention to his actions as an appropriate means to determine who he actually was. And that's one thing that I feel like eventually runs its course in a cult leader's mind, in a cult member's mind, or even in a regular relationship. You tend to just begin to lose value in what that person's saying, and you begin to be more aware of what they're doing. If I keep saying, baby, I love you, baby, I love you, baby, I love you, but my actions say I don't care about you, over time, baby, I love you just doesn't do what it did in the beginning. And I think that that was a major part of me, as well as other people, leaving the cult and really being able to see the cult leader for who he was, because you can't deny his actions regardless of how grand his statements were. And that's one thing I feel like is going to really be the nail in the coffin as far as his case is concerned, because no matter what you type on a piece of paper and no matter what you try to say online in a phone conversation, we are going to be able to examine your actions to determine the nature of your character. And that's a thing that I hope people apply, not just to this situation, but in their lives. Because when people really love you, they don't have to tell you. They don't have to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Telling you is kind of like just a little sprinkle in conjunction with how much and how well they show you. And if somebody's real, they don't have to affirm that to you. You're going to reach that. They're so confident that they're real that they know you're going to eventually reach that conclusion. Martin Luther King said, I had a dream. He didn't say I'm a good person. Malcolm X never said I'm a good communicator or a good speaker. He just did it. So the cult leader, and as well as the cult members, have this huge fascination with trying to convince people of what they're doing, because we're really not doing nothing that
Mm-mm.
we're saying or that we're demanding you to do. And the greatest irony about carbonation is that the very thing that we were trying to preach to other people is things that we actually needed to do. Anybody that loves themselves don't have to keep making it a reminder.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you trying to convince? The people or yourself? I love myself should have been an action more than it was a repetitive statement.
And what's up with the victimization? I feel like, when I first went out to join the cult, I didn't know I was joining a cult, but I remember one thing that really gravitated me, it really pulled me towards the group, and that was that we weren't victimizing ourselves. ourselves. We were saying, you know what, this system is not what we want to be a part of. It's not about
Yeah,
the
right,
fact
correct.
that the white man this and the white man that. It's just about separating ourselves and creating something new, creating something not necessarily new, but different outside of the system. You know, like, we don't have to bash the white man. We don't have to attack the white man. All we need to do is separate ourselves. So I thought that was very honorable because I was at that point, I had a lot of, I think, anger or misunderstanding for white people. So I remember, like, you just white people I used to see, I used to get irritated, like, oh, I used to just, I thought that, I was on this like black power,
Mhm.
white people are the devil type thing. And so when I was introduced to this whole, like, no, everything is a mirror, it's a reflection, and everybody deserves love. I thought, well, that's empowering. I can let go of this anger and this hatred that I have for white people. Over time, you know, going forward, I realized that now we're screaming about white supremacy, and now the white man is this and the white man is that, and enslaved us. And I thought we enslaved ourselves. I'm just so confused on why we're bashing white people now. And when the police, was doing wellness checks, we were like, oh, they up in our business. It's the white man always in our business. Like, no, these people are doing their jobs because we're causing issues in the community. It's like there was no accountability, and everything just turned into victimize this, victimize that. But the main thing that we were preaching was no one's a victim. You're in charge of your reality. You are God. Take accountability. Be responsible for your actions and how you respond to life. Meanwhile, everything that was being said about us, or when people would respond to us, and when the authorities would respond to us, we were always the victims. And it was like, and that's just a reflection of him, because he never, I mean never was an issue in any of his relationships. He never says I was the issue. I had a drinking problem. I had a problem with putting my hand on these women. I had an issue with going and sleeping with hundreds of women. I had this issue. It was never his problem, like, it was always someone else. And when people say things like, oh, he has potential to change, I say absolutely not. Absolutely not. He doesn't, because he shows no potential to change, because he shows zero accountability ever. And the only times where I've seen him show accountability was to manipulate. And he would cry. He literally would shed tears, like, I'm so sorry, I did so wrong, only to then turn around and do it again, or do
Do it
something
again.
even worse. Like, this is not a this is a person who literally knows how to manipulate people. He was in a psych ward. Well, if that's true, he was literally in a crazy house. He knows how to manipulate the situation. And it's amazing. It's amazing to me, looking back now and just thinking about how things switched, over time, to, oh, we don't believe in this, to now this is what we do. There's so many contradictions. So much, it was just, the, oh, you know, um, won't ever be no, I won't ever bring no transsexuals here because that's not natural. Next thing you know, there's a transsexual here. It's like, what? What? It,
And
uh,
then you had the smoke doesn't belong in the body, but we're smoking not just marijuana, but we're smoking Black and Miles.
and we're smoking them every day,
And we're going
multiple
to get
times a day,
packs. We're going to get packs of Black and Miles
asking for donations, but these donations are going to what? We built nothing.
in
We
five
built
years. It
nothing.
doesn't.
And it makes me
Yeah.
so angry to think about everything this person took and built nothing. I mean, literally doesn't have a dollar to his name, and you're complaining about being left in jail without any money? Dude, how much money did you get over this span of time? You were saving nothing. There's no
How can somebody?
way.
How can you build a sustainable village and you're not even sustainable in your own self?
Not at all. At all. Literally nothing to show for it. And I remember in Mexico, it was so hard for me to leave. He even told me, well, just stay here then, because I was pregnant and we had just built these gardens. we had just, it was like this house was my home. That land, that was my home. And he got scared because the police came, and he's like, we have to go. And I'm like, bro, we just literally were starting a garden. Like, we were just starting to grow food. Like, I'm just supposed to leave abruptly with no plan, nowhere to go, 6 months pregnant? Are you serious? And he's like, well, just stay here then. And I'm just like, well, obviously I don't have a choice, but it's just like, from that day forward, we built nothing. It was like never a freaking seed planted. Like, it was like nothing. And then the narrative changed to, oh, we can't build anything until the system falls. And it's just like,
That's not
it's
true.
pathetic. It's
That's not
pathetic because there's
true.
people building
There's people
things
doing it.
everywhere.
There's people doing it. There's people building sustainable villages. It's not nothing new. It's been done before, and it's being done to this day. There's people who are, why would you want to wait to a system fall to then begin prepared? There's people who are doomsday preppers. They're literally doing the work. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking about breaking generational curses. We're talking about the black woman is this and the black woman is that. But there's
Mm-hmm.
clearly an increase of black women and black men staying together. You can see it. You see it online. But when
Mm-hmm.
you're in this container and viewing reality from the perspective of the cult leader alone, then you don't allow your own mind to grow and
Mm-hmm.
realize that this cult leader may not be as intelligent as you're assuming him to be. Because you can find, if anybody, and this was, the cult leader was notorious for coming up with these grand thoughts and running to Google to find an article to support his thoughts. With so much access to information and anybody's ability to put something on the internet, anybody, regardless of what you believe, you can pull an article that says you're right. So we can't rely so heavily on a Google search, because if I want to find an article that says you should eat apples every day, I'll find it. If I want to find an article that says you should not eat apples, I'll find it. So we have to
Mm-hmm.
find some other means of relying on information and determining its credibility. And that's why I no longer subscribe to the idea that schools are ridiculous. Schools are nothing more than an environment where skills and information are transferred to the next group of people. If I am about to get an operation or a surgery, I want the operation to be performed by a doctor who went to school and received the training, not by a doctor that looked up how to do the surgery on YouTube. There's too many YouTube philosophers and YouTube self-appointed geniuses. You don't become skilled by reading documents or watching YouTube videos. You become skilled by applying and practicing and experiencing that which you're talking about. So
Mm-hmm.
everything, and then when you look at the contradictions, oh, nothing in nature has a hospital, nothing in nature has a school. But when that mouth swelled up like you had swallowed a grapefruit, you went to where? A doctor who learned what? How to do and perform his career task from where? A school. When you realize that your ability to deliver a child and your experience level was 0, you took Velvet to a what? A hospital.
Mm.
So and let's not even talk about cosmic currency, because this is something I want to talk about. You want to talk about cosmic currency and not working for the system. Where was our money coming from? Tory. Where was our money coming from? Donations from people who do
The
what?
government.
Who do what? Work for the government.
It was coming from the government, period.
How was we paying for our food? Food stamps. What was we doing with this stimulus check?
Stimulus checks, PPP loans. Some people got them loans.
Unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
You got to think, some of y'all was getting about 2 racks for unemployment.
Yep.
Multiply that
every
times
month.
10.
Mm-hmm.
We was making 20 bands a month. What do we have to show
Nothing.
for it? But nothing but a goofy dude dressing up in costumes, drinking Hennessy, smoking weed, and taking trips.
Yep, taking all them trips. That's where all that money went. And I didn't even know that, Aaron, until you told me that. a month or two ago when you told me about how much money we had in Puerto Rico, because only people that knew about the finances
Was
was
us. Was
you
18.
and 18. And so I'm like, wait, we had how much money coming
20
in?
bands.
Because
20
I don't
at one
remember
time we
getting
had
no extra clothes or getting no extra food or getting no extra necessities. I remember him going on trips though, but from my understanding, we was always, living a minimal life. So I just thought, I never asked for a whole lot or nothing, but I'm like, oh, this man buying J's and new denim sets and jackets and jewelry, grills, out the watches coming out the woodwork, all of a sudden now he live in Atlanta with a brand new car. He going to Vegas. He doing this. He doing that. How does he have this much money? Oh, my bad. I didn't realize all of us literally had to at least a rack coming in every month, because we wasn't in charge of our own finances. I was not in charge of my own finances. I didn't know what type of things were on my account. I just had to run my credit to make sure I didn't have no outstanding things, in my credit, because I don't know. I believe that those women still there, they don't know what's on their credit. They don't know what could possibly be outstanding for them, because he has people apply for things through other people. So I don't know. I never did my own, I never applied for unemployment on my own. So I'm like, I don't even know what these what accounts are open. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, and let's not even neglect to talk about the whole reason why we were in Philadelphia.
oh let's not even oh my goodness.
The whole reason why we were in Philadelphia was to get money, to go to these different banks. We were told, go to these banks and open up accounts and do this and do that. I suppose we were scamming, but nobody knew. I don't know if nobody knew, but I personally didn't know about why we were going to these banks. What was the purpose of this? We were not told, as far as the women, because the women were staying in another room, the three of us, me, Kayla, and Jayon. But we were ordered to, go to these banks and do this and do that. They was taking us everywhere. I remember, me and you weren't together at the time. So I remember I was going with the other guys to the banks and stuff like that. I didn't know why I was going to these banks, open up accounts. Scamming. Why? But I thought we don't work for money. I thought we don't use the government. Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
If y'all want to know how Carbonation was funded, scams and military checks.
Fraud.
And donations. Fraud, military checks, and donations.
Yep.
Cosmic currency, my boy, cut it out, man.
Cut it out, bro.
Cut it out,
I'm tired of the fake woke spirituality is dead, bro. Because it's like, at this point, wasn't no universe working magic. We was slaving for this person, by whatever means, except going to get a job. We so against going to get a job. Meanwhile, we slaving day in and day out for this person and scamming the government. Like, what? I'm so glad I didn't get one of them PPP loans. I'm so glad I don't got no crazy things on my credit. I'm so glad, because who knows what it would took for me to pay that back.
I know people wanted to know that. I know people were saying I got a PPP loan. Mine didn't go through.
Yeah, mine didn't go through. Thank goodness.
So like my thing is, y'all, is telling the truth is more important than me and what it's gonna make me look like. Cause now I get to move through life and know that I can start from here and move forward and never have to live a lie again. But in order to move forward, I have to let everything out that I've been carrying with me. So when it comes to the PPP loan, scamming. Then also the cult leader convinced Porsche to take upon his debt from not paying rent, thinking that he was going to use some type of grand scheme to not have to pay it. Porsche now has $12,000 to $13,000 of unpaid rent on her name because the cult leader didn't want it on his name because of the position he's already in. So now she's assumed his debt, thinking that she did something honorable.
thinking that, oh, it's the straw man, it's not me, it doesn't matter, it's not gonna affect me because I'm not my straw man, and the government has no effect on me, I'm untouchable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the
But see,
whole
here's the
reason why you're
thing.
sitting in jail now.
Here's the thing. The system has to be in place for people like him. The system
Yes.
creates a fair opportunity for everybody. But if we were completely dependent upon some leader, self-appointed leader, you see what that leads to. Just like the dude, I don't know if y'all seen it. I posted it on my story. Please, please, please go watch Keep Sweet, Pray, and Obey. I will post it on my story later. There's a guy who ran a cult called the FLDS, the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints, who was using young girls and polygamy to create his own little world. But behind that was a lot of inappropriate and abusive things being done. So the reason why polygamy is illegal, which I assume maybe one reason that I could see as a valid reason, is because people like Warren Jeffs exist. And then when you watch it, you'll understand it's not for population control. And one thing I know is that the truth is boring. The truth is boring. So a lot of people are getting a lot of attention from circulating these conspiracies about what's going on. But I can see why the government has certain stipulations and mechanisms of control, like the age of consent. The cult leader's weird for saying that the age of consent is, according to nature, is when a girl starts having her period. But no, we know that a 12-year-old is susceptible mentally, even though her body may be ready to reproduce, to certain manipulations. So of course the government is going to increase the age of consent to a place where somebody has the mental capacity to be able to say that they want to have sex or not, because the government understands that a young girl is easily influenced and manipulated, even though her body is able to be impregnated. So I'm sorry, y'all, I forgot, but I'm just now catching that's strange that you would support that and make it seem like the government is trying to use that only for population control and to prevent the black man from reproducing himself. No. A grown 30-year-old man should not be interested in an 11-year-old girl just because her period is on. That's weird. That's why those types of things are in place, is because niggas like you.
Yep.
I
They
didn't mean
really
to say the N-word, y'all. Excuse me. I'm working on my profanity. Negroes like you. So I can see why the government has grocery stores, because men like you will harbor food to get people to work for you. I see
withhold
why they have money,
resources.
to give everybody a fair opportunity. Because men like you will use resources if you had the capacity to create your own world that is not for the betterment of the people, but is only for the betterment of you. So let's not sit up here and act like the system is just this grand demonic thing, but rather not something that's in place for fairness. Because if men were able to just run wild, we'd have a lot of dudes like you in control and in power. And what type of world would that be? We don't know. Imagine a world ran by Jim Jones, a world ran by Charles Manson, a world ran by Warren Jeffs.
Yeah. And at one point I remember, like, in my mind, just like, oh, I don't have a choice to go along with this because the system, in my mind, I'm like, the system is not real or whatever. Like, oh, if the system failed today, I would have to basically submit to this person. But I would rather die. I'd rather die than be in any type of relationship bond with that person. Like, he talking about, when the system falls, people are gonna bow to me. No, dude, no. I will off myself before I bow to you, for real. And that's on everything. I really would never bow to that person ever in my life, because I mean, look at him. Look at what he does to people. He destroys lives. with no remorse. I told some of the women, I told her, I apologize for slapping you. I apologize for being horrible to you. You know, something that I know that he would never do. You know what I'm saying? He would never do that. He would never apologize for the things that he's done. And he would only admit it to seem more powerful. And one of the things that I realized with, doing research on the survivors of R. Kelly was that abusers, some abusers and manipulators hide in plain sight. They say what they do. They talk about it. There was so many times where he got online and he bragged about his power and control over us. And I guess for some people that was like, oh, he admits to it, so he's not that bad, because he's upfront and he's truthful. Even him, he would say, well, at least I'm real about mine. I don't hide it. But some people just feed off of that. They like that they have this power and control over others, and they, instead of hiding it, they flaunt it. Look at me, I get all these young girls to come be with me. And he was hungry for power. It was never enough attention. It was never enough power. It was never enough for him. You know, ever. That's why it was like he could have 6, 7 women around him, but he's still online trying to recruit more. Because he wanted to feel like he was the most powerful, and untouchable. You and I'm just so glad he's getting what he deserves now. I believe that's truly what he deserves. I mean, of course, other things I feel like he deserves, but I know that, I don't have to forgive him. I don't. I know people always talk about forgiveness and stuff. I don't have to forgive him. I forgive myself. I don't have to forgive him for anything. And anybody that's talking about, oh, but he had knowledge and died. Oh, he did this for you and did that for you. You wasn't there. You wasn't in that room with me,
Yeah. And
or with
that's
any of those women for that matter.
yeah. And
Anybody talking about the alleged victim, you
we weren't there.
wasn't there.
I wasn't even there.
You wasn't in that room. You wasn't in that house. You wasn't there in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. You wasn't there. So it's like, and even if you say, I came there for a couple of weeks and you seen what? Yo, we went to some waterfalls, so everything was cool. You wasn't there, bro. You didn't have no child there, bro. You didn't experience the things that, well, why are you talking about it now? Because I experienced it. I understand that there's going to be people that never will understand because they just weren't there, and that's okay.